The Megaplex-Trilogy was started in 2008, and it deals with mainstream cinema and the idea of kind of the spectacle having taken over from content in Hollywood cinema. So it's these very grand human themes that have been explored through the Renaissance and by painters and sculptors, and it's similar themes retold through pop culture and specifically cinema. So I chose to make to execute them as very dense video collages. So it's the first time collage has been used in motion in this way, and the idea is to create a kind of hyper-saturated version of the source material. So the source material, which is already about spectacle, and it's usually in 3D when I was sampling the work, now becomes reprocessed into this kind of spectacle with interchangeable content. So all the characters inside these pieces are kind of trapped in time. They're all video loops that never really resolve, and it becomes like a canvas, a moving painting, if you will.
So where do you get your inspiration from? Film or art or?
Well, the inspiration for Megaplex came from more painters like Bruegel and Hieronymus Bosch, for the first one especially, and the sense of narrative being told in a non-linear way. So the pieces deal with this kind of overarching movement. One of the pieces scrolls vertically, one of the pieces horizontally, and the last one moves in through space, moves outwards from a central point. So the narrative is unfolds through selective motion of looking at this moving painting, and very much like what Bruegel was doing with hundreds of characters on a canvas, narratives taking place in different points on the canvas, and the connection between those being more thematic sometimes than chronological, or about the ideas within it. So this explores, again, it's done in a very different way. It's about pop culture, and it's about the kind of corruption of culture. So it's kind of working in a very different way to the intention of those painters. But the storytelling, the narrative, the presentation of narrative is similar to that. So the inspiration came from those works.
What are you interested in, particularly in the artistic process, rather than as a filmmaker, which you've been
right.
in the first one?
In my artistic practice, I think the degree of control that I would have in terms of the format of the work, the way the work is presented. I see my work as installation work as much as time-based video work. So often I'm able to stage shows that don't have to do with a screen, just looking at a single channel screen as you would in a movie theater. So the idea of creating multi-channel installations and an environment that works with the concept, the central concept, and isn't really a slave to a certain format, like a 2-hour format, or the way people view cinema, is more specific and I think much more compelling for me, because you're able to use much more architectural. My background is actually in architecture as well as chemical engineering. So I love the idea of setting up environments that reinforce the viewing experience. So it's not just about watching an image unfolding on a movie screen.
So how do you go about it when you sort of have an idea about visual?
Well, it always starts with the subject. A lot of my work deals with the idea of technology and how technology and culture, technology and emotion intersect, and both in a positive way or in a negative way. And it's a very contemporary concept of, things are changing so quickly with even the way we communicate through technology, that my work in some way addresses different manners of this happening. Cinema having been delegated to a spectacle now, the kind of the loss of a narrative from cinema, which has happened in Hollywood, or video games, the way one of my installations dealt with video games and massive multiplayer video games and the way people interact inside a virtual world as opposed to the physical world. The piece I'm working on right now is with the NASA space program in America, and the idea of physical exploration giving way to virtual exploration. So thematically, there's a common point often to my work. Stylistically, my inspirations come from what's appropriate to that concept. So it always starts with a feeling that I want to express, and sometimes it is best expressed through something very Baroque and very dense, like the Megaplex series, which is a very dense and Baroque collage, or the NASA piece, for instance, is a public viewing of a mission that never happened, and it's much more minimal and much more austere. So the style, I think I'm more a formalist. What I relate to and what I connect with most strongly is more formal, and perhaps a minimalist as well. But in a piece like Megaplex, obviously, it's a very different language that I'm using. But the idea behind that language is consistent with works that I've made in the past that are more minimal or more simple, conceptual statements.
Have you also shot new footage for the Megaplex-Trilogy?
No, the rule that I set for myself would be that no images that I would use would be original. So every single image in all three pieces is sampled from a film. So each piece samples about 300 to 400 individual film clips, and all of those, whether it's a smoke rising from a volcano in the background or it's a massive crowd fleeing a tidal wave, all of those are scenes from films which have been cut out, or it's called rotoscoping, and they've been cut out from the original material, and then we have these characters on a black background, and then they're recombined into the collage, which you will see here.
And finally, how do you see yourself in the context of the Fondation Beyeler or its collection? Is there an artist you're particularly maybe inspired or influenced by?
Well, it's an interesting coincidence because the Courbet show here at the same time as we're presenting Megaplex has an interesting dialogue between the two, and I find his work very inspiring.